answers that I'm looking for on this, and I would make a motion that the town board table this item until a future meeting date.
Motion's been made to table item number 2 until a later date, when supervisors get all their questions answered. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any further discussion?
Yes, Michelle, this was advisory only, right? They just wanted our opinion on it?
That's my understanding, yes.
And is there a deadline for us providing our opinion?
I actually did not read the full one, I couldn't tell you.
Josh, do you know if there's a deadline?
That's one of the questions I have. Similar to the one that we received inquiry on for multiple dwellings on one parcel. If the town does not act, they essentially omit us from the count, is what that letter said. I don't know if this one is the same or not. It doesn't say in Matt's letter, and it doesn't say in the text of the ordinance. So
The other reason I'm asking is, if we delay this to the next meeting and that goes past the deadline, you know, I don't wanna call it a vote, but our voice wouldn't be heard, so, it's hard to make a decision if we don't know what the deadline is.
I can call tomorrow and find out.
I'm not sure why this isn't, I shouldn't be surprised. Have you heard
So,
anything on,
I mean,
from Whitewater, have you heard anything on this as far as deadline or anything?
I haven't heard of it. I do not know of any deadlines pertaining to that. But I don't have any further information yet.
yeah, I mean, the unfortunate thing is that the letter was dated the 29th, and by the time it gets to us, it's circulated in the midst of everything else. 4 days to review a 12-page ordinance about something as mildly controversial as solar is, I think, a little short. We only have a 5-day window. Plus, the good news is we have a really good habit of having special meetings, so I kind of figured at some point we might be meeting before March, whatever 15th is.
Well, is there enough in this for us to make a decision, or what are the other questions you have?
One of the biggest things in my own mind is number one, what the process is. Number two, what the existing, I dug in as far as I could, but if there's any consideration on the process of approval. Some of these, they're talking about zone like egg transition, maybe we'll have small solar on it, and there's contingencies on approval for the adjoining, call it, or nearby municipality to also do it. Like, what happens if a municipality that there's no zoning change, like extraterritorial zoning, right? Like I'm gonna take Bonnie for example, if she's in a transition zone. So if, let's say she wants to put a small solar array, like per definition, not a small solar array is in for her house, but if the village says no, we don't want to see that, then like how does that process go through secondary review? Because it's a conditional use permit, which realistically would just squash it. But is there an appeals process and all those types of things? Because if you got neighbors that just don't want it. So I've got overriding overall Q&A maybe, but
Not to use a overused term from tonight's meeting, but do they not include any testimonials or information on what the people for it, the advantages, and what the people against it, their opinions? So we can read the ordinance, but being honest with you, don't know what half of it means.
And I didn't dig back in to find the correct zoning committee meeting when this was discussed, and so I think getting some potential background beyond just the boilerplate letter that zoning office sent out, similar to what we did a year ago when we had somebody come in for a conditional use permit for long-term storage out on 59. So Matt sent me a follow-up kind of community-specific kind of response, which I understand they're not going to have to reach out.
Okay. All in favor for tabling, item number 2 till at least the next meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried for tabling. Number 3, approval of refund of garbage fee special charge of $197.40 to Tom Ralston from tax account. Property charge is a vacant parcel of land. It's out there on Hooper Road. All he owns is land. And this is the first year that we ever charged him for it or whatever. So,
Make a motion to approve the refund of garbage fee special charge of $197.40 to Tom Rose.
motion's been made to refund Mr. Ralston $197.40. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4, possible review of airport's proposed updated leases and possible approval of the same. Do you wanna just go through that a little bit?
Sure, I had an opportunity to review, I believe it was 5 separate leases pertaining to the hangars at the airport. Ultimately, I thought that the leases were well constructed. I did make a modification to the taxes section of those leases. As we know, taxes has been a
Right, that was.
An
Really,
issue.
let's see that. You want one of these? Or just email it to me?
Just email it to me.
Okay.
But ultimately, I can just tell you what the language was changed to. It says that the lessee shall pay all taxes or assessments that may be levied against the personal property of the lessee, as well as any taxes, assessments, or charges levied against the real property subject to the lessee.
What section are we talking?
That would be the taxes section.
Well, it's number 9, it didn't come out on the printout.
Oh, that's probably because it
Was it red?
It was in red. That's what it said.
So do me a favor, just reread that one more time.
Sure. The lessee shall pay all taxes or assessments that may be levied against the personal property of the lessee, as well as any taxes, assessments, or charges levied against the real property subject to this lease. So really, it's just updating the lease to reflect the change in the statute.
And make sure that we eventually get paid. Something happens. And can you send that out to us without the red on it, so that we can actually see it? And then Michelle will send it to you, Lou.
Great.
And she'll send it to Al.
Was that made to every version of the leases we have, or just one?
Every version.
Were there, as long as we're amending those leases, is there anything else we needed to change?
No, not from my perspective.
Okay.
But again, if you haven't had an opportunity to review them, then
Yeah.
it might be.
Lou, question for you.
Yes, sir.
When we're updating leases, do we look at the rental fees and up those,
No,
bring those
that-
up to current market values?
They're getting there, so the reason there are 2 separate leases for the key hangars and also for the storage units are because we are, and it's just to make it clear who they apply to, otherwise the language is exactly the same would be all 3 of those or all 4 of those leases.
Okay.
And then, so in terms of rate, in order to get approval, we maintained current rate for 2026 for current key hanger renters, and then the rent for current key hangers, renters, and anybody new, or for the new key hangers, will come together in about 2030 or 2031 to reflect market rates.
So,
I'm sorry, I'm confused by that. You're talking 5-6 years from now, you're gonna look into comparative rates?
no,
No.
What's happened there is we've got the new T hanger that isn't even there. Their rates are gonna be higher than the old T hanger.
Right.
So that the old T hanger leases are gonna play catch up to the new one, and it all should come the same about 2030.
About that, yeah.
Right. But the leases are reviewed, they're 2-year leases, and we can change it's a 5% rate increase every 2
No,
years.
we're actually not restricted to that, the way the lease is written, but right now, if you rented a T-hanger and signed a 2-year lease, you would have rates for 2025, 2026, and 2027, because 2-year lease goes into 2027. So we've set rates for 25, 26, and 27, but we're not committed to those beyond this year. I mean, so if somebody signed a lease, they're committed to those 3 years, 3 calendar years. But anybody that would come in, say next year at this time, we would have had a meeting and could adjust rates on an annual basis. We can't adjust one, obviously, that has a current lease.
Right, there's going to be every January meeting
The first meeting of the year.
of the year, we're gonna review the amounts and look at everything.
Right.
Is that, right, so that'll be the first meeting of the year, every year.
I think Cal was doing a rate comparison for airports in
Yep.
the area, county, state. I don't know how far out he was reaching. Is that analysis completed, and have we seen it?
Yeah.
If it is, have we seen it?
Well, Frank has seen it in terms of the airport commission. But what Cal determined, Cal and I were like a committee of 2. Cal did most of the legwork on it, and he determined that right now for this airport or similar airports, the rent should be somewhere around $200 a month for the T-hangers. So in order to get there, because it was quite a sticker shock, because we had our current 8 T-hangers, most of them have been rented for some time, even 2015, and they were stuck at 2015 rates, which were
100 plus electric.
yeah, about 125 all in.
So you're saying 200 was sticker shock high or low?
Yeah, oh yeah, sticker shock high.
And Cal did have,
Frank, can you share that comparison with us? Because we haven't seen it.
yeah, can you send that?
I'll send it on.
Send it to Michelle.
Yeah.
Send it up. Yeah, it was a good comparison. Cal went through everything and voted on it, so. Everything's voted on and rates are going up. But the old users or leases of the T-hangers
Not me,
are just gonna drag behind a little of the new T-hangers, but they will eventually catch up.
So I guess I've got like 73 questions that are kind of all related.
Order pizza.
Yeah. I think all 3 short here though. So like the hangar area lease that I'm looking at in the file, under the terms, there's a blank under no more than X% every other year for the.
Well, that's meant to be penciled in because that can be amended. If someone doesn't have a lease and acquires a hangar, we're not bound beyond what we've passed at the airport commission level. So in a year from now, that may change. So I think we got blindsided a little bit by the past few years of wild inflation and ended up a little behind. We just don't want to lock ourselves in to that. So that's a 25-year lease for the land under the owned hangars. So obviously that is currently at I think it's 10%, 5% a year. So I think what we passed.
That's where you got 5%.
Right.
So taking taking that into account with conversations from Thursday about there being like eras of leases and whatever that people have signed over the course of time. And then potentially taking into account like a T hanger lease building 1 may be different than a T hanger lease building 2 or 3 someday maybe. I still think the easiest administrative way to do annual increases and annual rents and all of that is to put the 5 different leases into a chart, right? Excel spreadsheet. And potentially have, like in this case, a T-hanger lease originating before 2025 is one monthly price. T-hanger lease originating after 2025 is another tier of prices to keep those even, but then we don't have 68, how many ever is eventually gonna be there, individual leases, and if the rent, the escalator, and everything is done annually, as far as if it's gonna adjust, what it's gonna adjust, and everything else, then the airport commission can look at the leases and the fee schedule, and amend the fee schedule, and not have to go back and screw with
Have another one signed.
individual leases, or having a hole somewhere that, like taxes, we didn't quite see. I think it would be more flexible for the airport commission, because you're not like a staff of 73 people to administer all of these, and at the same point, kind of dumb it all down so it's all in one sheet that you're dealing with every single year, and you don't have somebody come back 10 years and say, no, this, let's just say Lou didn't have his coffee that morning and he wrote the same price in for 3 years in a row. Oops.
Well, but those prices are set by the commission. We're really trying to protect ourselves, since we don't take any taxpayer money.
Okay.
And so we're trying to protect ourselves and give ourselves the flexibility, should funding go away, which is always a possibility, that we have the flexibility to maybe even dramatically increase rates for both T-hangers outside of the 2-year leases, and for anybody that buys an existing hangar, because the leases are not transferable at all. Now, the other issue is that, although it seems a little complicated, the lower rate for the T-hangers only applies to current renters and no one subsequent. So if one of the renters leaves, they won't get the same rate.
Right. No, I understand that.
Okay.
That's why I'm thinking if you had a T-hanger, let's just say the T-hanger lease, right, and it was leases authorized prior to 1/1/25, that would be all your current people. Here's your rates, right? And then anybody after Jan 1/25, here's your current rates. And if you're gonna adjust those annually, which is a second different sort of point, if you're gonna adjust those annually, then you can do that all in one potential.
I think the way this is, the way it's written, Josh, I think we can do that. And that's a nice, elegant way of doing it, but we'd still have our rate setting meeting annually. So whether we put it on a spreadsheet or adjust each thing, the spreadsheet is just fine. And effectively, we're doing that. So it would lend itself to transferring this information to a spreadsheet very handily.
If you decide to leave and Jeff decides to leave,
Well,
I mean,
the rates are set.
Yeah, I know, but you're the walking history model of how this works at this point. So that's my concern is the administration of this and using the KISS theory to try to keep it simple. The other I guess part related to this, the meeting on Thursday, leases, the approval process, potentially fees, is that the fees are also outlined after having a Thursday Thursday night post-meeting meeting with the three voices in my head about the ordinance, is that the fee schedule is supposed to be approved by the board too. The fees, the leases and the fees are supposed to be approved by the board. Correct. So, again, whether we adjust, massage, what have you, the ordinance, or whether we do what the ordinance says, one or the other, I think gonna have to happen. So, from a budgetary standpoint, I'm that guy. I would suggest, rather than the first of the year, is potentially doing like your Q3 meeting, so that you know, as of January 1st, here's our rent budget, right, for the next year, rather than potentially prorating and rolling through my own opinions, but.
Okay, Lou, can you get Michelle so she can distribute the fee schedule we came up with the other day, because that's what you're looking for, right? You wanna see that, right?
And the comparison, the rent comparison to other airports.
You got the rent comparison, is Gal or?
Yeah, I can get that from,
Okay,
Cal.
because then what we'll do is, the way it's looking here, we'll probably table this until our next March meeting, which is not a big deal. In my opinion, or what are you thinking, guys?
Well, we have to push it out, because there's some errors in this.
Okay, we'll table this, we'll get it on the agenda at the next meeting, if that's what we want.
So, can you clarify what you're proposing, or what you should be doing in terms of fees? Are we doing something different than what we've done? Do you want to set the fees? Is that what you're getting at?
I don't, the ordinance doesn't say that we set the fees, it says we approve them, kind of like the lease conversation we had, where the airport commission can draft the leases, all this, again, third-party legal review here, not me, because I'm not one, but if there's a process, we should either follow it or change the ordinance, is my point.
Okay, so is, speaking with Mr. if you can, should the board be approving the rates? Or should that be the responsibility strictly of the commission? The way I understood it the last time I was here was that you needed to approve the language of the lease, and there was nothing said at that point about the rates.
Because until we had, remember that big white elephant that walked in the room? I went home and reread.
Which one?
Reread the ordinance.
Yeah.
And it's towards the back. I don't remember what subsection it is, but I went, oh, cool. There's another something to at least flesh out and figure out what we're doing.
Well, Jonathan's looking for that question for you. You're referring to the T-hanger, you're talking about the existing T-hanger.
The existing T-hangers, right.
So.
And the existing renters.
Right, but with the new hangar, and we'll get to that when it gets built, okay?
That's right.
But, we got a huge grant for that. Well, was there an out of pocket from our standpoint for that? It was like 10%, wasn't it?
Well, the town didn't contribute
It
anything.
came out of the sponsor.
Right, but my question is when we sit down to factor, and that's a discussion for down the road, I'm just bringing up think about. We are deciding rates on those new T-hangers, do they have to be set with some sort of payback? Recouping any funds over a period of time?
Just a monthly lease, isn't it?
Yeah, there shouldn't be any funds to recoup.
Don't you have to pay the sponsor fee?
We did pay those. but
Does that not have to be repaid?
No.
Something to think about, and something to look into, work with Jonathan on, because if there is any type of repayment or reimbursement back to that fund necessary, the rates would have to be based on some sort of repayment schedule, I would assume. So just something to think about and look going forward. We're not there yet, obviously, it hasn't even started to be built yet, so there's something we need to think about.
There's no repayment of the sponsor money that was from the land worth, collecting donation. You don't have to pay that back. How does that work? Does it rebuild itself at all? Say it's worth $450 and we borrow $450 out of there, does it ever go back and be worth $450 again?
Yes, because it actually gets repaid from our, grant from the state, from the BOA.
Yeah, we'll get connected there, okay? It is what it is.
It's been a mess for years, this is not new.
No, but we're closing in here.
We are.
Closing in.
Understand. So what I would just, before I leave, what I would like is, one, we recognize what we have, whose responsibility is whose. And then secondly, if we can get the town board to clearly state that the airport commission has the level of authority to grant and sign leases, and that the airport commission could authorize the airport manager also to do that, but the primary responsibility would be with the airport commission. That leaves us with always having some personnel and protects us if we go for a period of time without an airport manager.
I see the way the lease that I'm looking at the end, you know, where it's signed, that was done good because it doesn't have to say township or something like that.
Jonathan just found where the board does have to approve the lease. I think that's what you said, right?
Well, under section 4, subsection B of the airport ordinance, it says the owner shall encourage the development of the airport, especially in those areas which substantially costs are incurred by the lessees, by approving long-term leases which provide for the re-examination and readjustment of rates and charges at specified periods of time during the term of the lease.
What's the definition of long-term?
Yeah, I think that might be something that should be
Well,
incorporated into
multi-year.
the-
25-year
Well,
leases,
because it is for the area leases, but it's 2 years for the T hangers, and that's why I asked the question.
okay, it looks like we do have some work left on
And Jonathan, on this hangar storage area lease, under terms, it says, this rent shall be good for a period of time commencing on the date hereof, and expiring 2 years from the date of signing of this lease. Leasing may terminate this lease upon written notice to leaseor given from the first of the month. There should be something about with X number of days, right? May terminate this lease with written notice to lessor.
Yes, I think depending on what you would want, 30 days or 60 days with something of
It
that.
should be in there.
But-
And lessor may terminate this lease in accordance with paragraph 12. Paragraph 12 is snow removal. It should be 11.
Well, once we have a chance to review them, we can clean it all up.
it.
So
We're gonna work on it both sides, you and I, okay?
We'll get together.
Let's not do 2
Okay,
days.
so I'm asking that when we correspond, make sure you have Lou's, Michelle send his email address, make sure he's in the loop, and Al, chairman of
So
the commission.
is there a motion on the table to push this out? Or?
No, I'll make a motion that we table this till next month's, well, not this, I'll make a motion that we table this to a special board meeting or next month's meeting, whichever comes first.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, good evening.
See you, Lou.
Thanks, Lou.
Okay, old business, discussion and possible action, property owner's duty and financial responsibility for tree removal in road right of way. Ask for this to be back on. There's no other jurisdiction in the county, to my knowledge. It was just at a county, meeting with everybody's supposed to be there, representative from all the townships. Nobody there has an ordinance making any of the constituents pay for tree removal. is simply maintain 33 feet from the center line of the road and clear it. That's the objective. If there is something right at the fence line, it's cut off, and it's obviously not gonna be, just like it was done out at the cemetery, John, you know, it was cut off, boom, you guys took care of it. You moved it off the road. So, there was one jurisdiction that thought they had an ordinance, that would be the town of Watertown. So, oh yeah, we send a letter out, if they don't pay, there's a special assessment against their taxes. Well, he went back and sent me what they sent out. And found out they don't even have an ordinance, they just been doing it, so. I can say to the best of my knowledge, no other jurisdiction in the county does this. And, you'd have a field day with that one, Josh, you'd have a field day with that one, I'll guarantee you. Anyway, so, in my opinion, except for, you know, we maintain the right of way of the road. I personally want to drop the issue at this time as far as making the land owners.
So a tree that's sitting on somebody's property falls across the road, who pays to
We have,
clean it up?
we have to clean it up.
Not in the right of way. On their property.
It's gonna be, it's a huge deal. Something, you know, here's the fence line, it comes over into the wall there. It's gonna be cut off right to here. We're taking care of it. And whatever's left on the other side is their business.
Was your question if the tree were to fall from someone's property to another private piece of property?
No, to unblock the road where we have to send somebody out northwest or somebody to clear it, and they send us a bill.
Yes, the municipality pays it.
And unless we have an ordinance, we can't bill back to a resident for that.
Correct.
Correct, but I'm just saying, at least in this county, nobody's doing that. Have you heard of it?
Well, after doing, more research on it, and trying to find other municipalities that do have an ordinance to that effect, it's very difficult, and pretty much searching all of Wisconsin to find one that does, which sets off some alarms for me as an attorney when no other, which seems like something sensible that you would have as an ordinance, doesn't seem to exist in almost any municipality. That sets off some alarms for me that, there's something there that needs to be looked at closer as far as what due process is required, and in fact, I know other municipalities have something like that. And even considering Jefferson County does not have any municipalities that have that, I wouldn't recommend moving forward with an ordinance to that effect. It seems to be that, I guess, the status quo, or is that it's basically up to the municipalities, and you can consider it as a piece of why people pay taxes, is to make sure that the roads stay clear.
You know, in our previous meetings, we had made a motion to develop an ordinance on this, didn't we? Josh, Bob, and we really don't have to do anything with it this time, do we?
I think we've just kept moving out to the next meeting while we looked into more information.
Is there a feeling that we need to make a motion on just disregarding and not moving forward with it, or just let it go? Let it go. Any further discussion on number 5? Moving to number 6. Discussion regarding tax bills in the sum of $18,870.20. And that's before late fee penalties, issued to the town to recover real property taxes on airport hangars, and request for direction of payment, non-payment of the bills. Note, since the tax payment is now past due, the payment cannot be made in installments. We have to
That's
pay
no
the-
information.
Well,